Right, hello and welcome all you listeners, Richard Gower here. So, yesterday we touched on second guessing and not really, getting in your own way. So I'd like to elaborate a little bit more on that with the idea of, I heard it on I can't remember which vlogger it was, but it was super cool and I loved every second of it. I even wrote it down and I put it on my wall. The idea that done is better than perfect. So this idea was so powerful for me because so much of my time is spent getting in my own way and thinking, no, Richard, it's not good enough. You could sing that better. You could make that better. You could make a better film. You could make a better video. You could make a better rant. You could rant better, Richard. Which is so... Oh man, it's tiring. So when I heard this idea that done is better than perfect, it just got me thinking that we live in a content-generated society. You know, everyone's basically living on Instagram and Facebook, and if you're not active on those social media platforms, like basically you're dead to the world because, you know, that's how people check in these days. The days are long gone that someone would actually ring you up and have a conversation with you and talk. Sometimes, I guess, with close friendships, that does still occur. But most of the time, people are just checking in on social media, and if you're not active and you're not posting, and especially if you work in a creative business, your numbers, your following is not going to be that great, and that doesn't really open up too many opportunities, so you've really got to be active. And in that pursuit of being active, you worry about the kind of content that you put out. You worry if it's perfect. You worry if you're good enough. You worry if you're saying the right thing, if, your content is of the level that it should be, or if it's better or worse than your competitors. And there's just a lot going on around the idea of content creation. So, getting back to my point, I was getting in my way so much of the time with the content that I was creating, specifically my vlog. I'm still not shooting on the most expensive camera, the most up-to-date, and, my editing skills are not that of Hollywood, and my B-roll sequences were okay. For those of you who don't know what B-roll is, it's basically everything else that's helping to drive your narrative that's not your main story. Anyways, film jargon. I was worried that I wasn't creating product that was good enough. And then after hearing this done is better than perfect, I realized that it takes bravery, it takes guts to put yourself out there. And whatever you're putting out there is better than nothing. So if you have a voice, if you have an opinion, if you have a talent, and you're able to put yourself out there, that's a win. That's a really big win in itself. If you create something today and you keep up the creative process, and you look back on it 5 years from now, of course you would have gotten better. Time does that. Time has an interesting way of teaching you how to improve. You start looking at little techniques that you can change here, and then little storytelling things that you can add to your video or whatever you're creating. And, the product grows. Just like you do, the product grows. We're also stuck in our heads when we first begin something that it has to be perfect. It has to be of the level that the biggest guys are producing. And a lot of the time, that is quite suffocating. It's super duper overwhelming. It's like trying to jump the mountain in one giant leap. I mean, that would be amazing if we had those kind of superhero powers, but unfortunately we don't. So the way to tackle this is just to start. Done is better than perfect. So get it out. Start building that audience. Start with one follower. Start with one video. Start with one song that you're learning to sing. Start with, one model train made, because that's the hobby that you want to get into. It just takes that one, and then the next one, and then the next one, and then 5 years down the line, you're going to look back on all the things that you created and all the lessons that you learned on the way. And I think the journey will be way more beautiful that way if you just get it done. Get it done, get it out there, and you will become perfect. I promise you, you will become perfect. You may not start perfect, but you probably will end to pretty close to perfect. So keep going. I urge you, if there's something that you wanted to create, that you wanted to share with the world, done is better than perfect. Get it out there. The world needs more happiness. The world needs more sunshine. The world needs more kindness. And on that, have a beautiful morning. Create something. And if it's evening, have a beautiful evening.